2018 BMW M2 against the 2024 Acura Integra Type S. Now, getting a stock example on the used market, it's going to run you about 35 to 40K for the M2 and about 45 to 50K for the Type S. But both of these have been modded, more so the BMW than the Integra, which actually brings the price point pretty similar. And the question today is, let's say you want something to serve as both a daily and a track car. These are two great options. We have front engine, front wheel drive with the Acura Integra, and we have front engine, rear wheel drive with the BMW M2. The Integra is powered by a 2-liter turbo inline-4, the K20C, making 320 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque, whereas this BMW M2 is powered by the N55. That's a 3-liter inline-6 with a single turbo, making 365 horsepower, 343 pound-feet of torque. But with all the mods, the owner is pushing close to around 400 to the wheels. Stock, the M2 weighs around 3,450 pounds, but with the mods, we're saving about 50 to 100 pounds, whereas the Integra Type S is around 3,200 pounds, so a little bit lighter. Both have McPherson strut front suspension and multi-link in the rear. As for mods here, he's put on a bigger turbo. That's where we're getting more power. It's a pure stage 2 turbo with a tune from 5150 Racing. MCS 2.8 non-remote coilovers, that's 7K in the front and 14K in the rear spring rates. The entire SPL front catalog and SPL rear upper control arms, but he is waiting on some more SPL parts for the rear as well. We got this big Flossman Dynamics Big Wang Gang, Rogue Engineering transmission mounts, Girodisc Rotors with Ferodo DS1.11 pads in the front, more aggressive, and DS2500, less aggressive in the rear. And we've got forged wheels wrapped in Hankook RS4, 265 section width, and Recaro pole position seats. I like what he's done with the wheel, not just because it's a Momo wheel with a nice Alcantara wrap, but also the quick release in the button box pushes the wheel out further so you can get nice and situated if you're a taller driver with long legs. Yeah, I can actually come out even further, look at that. Keep it right around there. And we have a few different modes. We're gonna go into sport, and to rev match ourselves, we actually have to turn off traction control. There we go. Holy shit, this is no regular M2, that's for sure. We've driven a stock M2 on the channel before, and I was a bit underwhelmed, but this example, I am definitely not underwhelmed. This is quite a machine right off the bat. I mean, not all E-Pass is bad and not all hydraulic is good. This electrically power assisted unit normally is numb in the stock example, but what he's done with the front end, the whole SPL catalog and with the wheel and such, very communicative. Quite one of the stronger E-Pass units for sure. That additional power giving us plenty of push in terms of power to weight ratio. We are getting quite a bit more lag though compared to a stock example, which makes sense. We have a bigger turbo, it takes longer to spool up. But throttle response in the sport mode is actually pretty natural, and comfort's a little bit sluggish. Sport Plus is a little bit too on-off. You lose that resolution because there's a little bit of travel gives you too much. Transmission as well is a joy to use. Very mechanical. A little bit slightly on the higher effort side, and between gates there's more resistance. But it's quite crisp. Shorter throws. The exact name of the short shift kit he used is down in the description. Hankook RS4s also have pretty stiff sidewalls, so you get great steering communication. Brakes have a good amount of bite. Confidence inspiring. brake pedal feel as well. The suspension is actually, it's obviously on the stiffer side, but it's actually quite well tuned in the sense that you're getting great body control, and the ride isn't so punishing. This is a smoother road, so I can't tell you how it handles larger bumps, but I'm getting texture of the road in a non-punishing way. The seats being super supportive also help with some chassis communication because there isn't as much padding compared to stock seats. This really goes to show how intelligently modifying a car can really transform. Oh man, that weight up in the steering mid-corner. This is just completely transformed over a regular stock M2. Really sharp front end, very responsive. So direct and precise too, and I like how they've tuned the engine with the bigger turbo. Really builds with you towards redline. You just have to be mindful because mid-corner, if you're not spooled up and you're getting on the throttle, you don't want to kick the tail out unintentionally. Toe is actually quite natural in this car. With this car. Most M2s have fallen short in some way, in the sense that you feel that they're not true sports cars. They're these compromised vehicles that are, you know, they are daily drivable in stock form, and it's ultimately not a dedicated sports car like a Porsche Cayman as an example. And you feel that when you drive a stock example, but then when you modify it in an intelligent way, like Alex has done here, my God, it completely wakes up the car. Makes it feel so much more alive, way more communication. Way more communication, far more visceral. I mean, part of that too is this really loud exhaust. But out of the F87 M2s that I've driven so far, this is up there. I'm very impressed. And let's see how the Acura Integra Type S compares. Now it's time for the 2024 Integra Type S. Now, the owner Alan, when modifying this, his theory is OEM Plus with a focus on daily driver comfort and being able to enjoy the vehicle in the canyons. Whereas Alex, with the M2, he's going more for in his words, like a GT3 RS, like a BMW M2 going all out on this platform in an OEM Plus setup. He's got these carbon fiber, you know, fender panels and hood and such with additional venting, letting out more air here from the engine for cooling. Larger slits over there too. And even the wing, he was explaining to me, is from a manufacturer that used to make, I believe, wings for the GT4 BMW cars and DTM. Now, as for mods on the Integra, we have spoon rigid collars, H&R Springs, so we still have the stock dampers, Whiteline rear camber arms, so we have negative 2.8 degrees of rear camber, negative 2.4 degrees in the front, Whiteline rear sway bar, SiriMoto stainless steel brake lines, Castrol SRF brake fluid, Hawk HPS 2.0 brake pads, Voke CE 28N Plus in this gorgeous matte blue, wrapped in Falcon RT 660s with a 275 section width, spoon drop-in filter, Miltec resonated catback exhaust, TSP stage 1 map, and a hybrid short shifter. So now, after reading the mods, you may think that this is an unfair comparison, and I actually don't necessarily disagree. Cheaper car with a lot more mods versus this. I mean, the thing that really transforms that car too is the suspension, right? You have like $8,000 plus in suspension mods. You got spherical bushings everywhere, replaced all the rubber bushings, and he then compensated to not have the harsh NVH by having softer spring rates. So I really, really love the suspension setup there, but he also spent a pretty penny. Whereas here, we just have the H&R Springs, stock dampers. We're not going for a track-focused build because Alex does track his car, Alan does not. So keep that in mind here. This is more of a canyon and comfort-focused vehicle. Like the FL5 shift knob, way better than the stock Integra Type S shift knob. And we're going to change this from comfort, sport, sport plus, individual. Oh, there's individual actually. Because we don't want rev match. And in those other modes, we have rev match enabled. So right off the bat, this feels way more subdued, and it feels like a more dailyable vehicle. Not that M2 is not dailyable, because again, the way that he set it up gives you that best of both worlds. But here it is softer, it is more comfortable. The engine is a lot quieter, not nearly as much power, but it's actually a little bit lighter, and you have more space in the back. You have 4 doors. You can actually take your family with you. Getting some pops and bangs from the exhaust. I'm liking the feeling of the short shifter. I think for a front wheel drive vehicle, the DE5, FL5 have great transmissions, and the short shifter just gives you that little extra bit of sportiness that you may want. With RT660s, you are getting more feedback through the wheel though, compared to the stock. I think it's PS4S rubber, if I'm not mistaken. But still nowhere near what you have on the BMW M2. But again, that has way more work done to it. Getting a little bit excess motion. I've always found that when you have lowering springs with stock dampers, that is a higher risk that you run. So you can actually elicit torque steer, despite what people say with the dual axis McPherson strut front suspension. You can absolutely elicit torque steer if you're really hammering it mid-corner. The very impressive thing though is with the LSD, it will just claw for grip and help you rotate out as you exit and not give way to understeer as readily. So it's very impressive from a front wheel drive technology perspective, but you get that corruption but you unfortunately get that corruption to the steering rack. Both are turbocharged engines. Of course, the M2, a more exciting powertrain, especially with the mods there. It's not that this feels slow or sluggish. I mean, you have over 300 horsepower and over 300 pound-feet of torque. It is it's such a quiet engine. The turbo really mutes it here. And surprisingly, this actually also has a decent amount of lag. You may think that the M2 is going to have way more lag with the bigger turbo and such, but actually, it's comparable. Both cars are really spooling out right around 4K, maybe 3.5. And if you're short shifting like I am, then you're really feeling that lag between gears. I like the brakes here. They're very natural. You don't have to think about them. They're not too firm, they're not too soft. At the beginning of the travel, it gives you that initial gradual build that you want. Now what Honda and Acura have done here with this generation, I'd say the inputs are quite good for modern day. But you have to keep that in mind. Modern day tends to mean more muted, more dull, right? We've compared the DE5 against the DC2, and that's obviously apples to oranges. I mean, the DC2 is so raw, so visceral, naturally aspirated, all that, and you lose a lot of the excitement. Now, if this was built out in a way to be more track focused and not a canyon and comfort focused vehicle, then sure, you can extract a bit more visceral nature from it and have it feel more exciting and engaging. But I also feel that fundamentally, when you have a heavier modern car, over 3,000 pounds, again, by modern standards, pretty light, 32, but compared to older vehicles, much heavier, and power is going through the front wheels, it's hard to get around things like torque steer. You also don't have the same level of NVH as old cars, so you don't get that excitement. And they've gone from the double wishbone, the DC2, they got McPherson strut. Even with the dual axis, it's not going to be as sophisticated of a suspension geometry. What you're paying for here between the two cars is additional comfort. There is an additional safety and peace of mind too with front wheel drive, because you have to intentionally get the tail out with weight transfer and trail braking and such. It's not going to surprise you. M2, more power, rear wheel drive, that can really kick the tail out. And I think for a lot of us, those that are more experienced, they want that excitement, they want that edge. But if you don't want to worry about that, you want to be able to just cruise, and actually not more than just cruise, mob in relative ease and not have to worry about so much, then something like this makes a lot of sense. The biggest thing that stands out between the two is really the suspension, because again, the MCS top tier, so well done with the spherical bushings. You get that communication in the M2 without a super punishing ride. When you think of spherical bushings, you think of, a lot of NVH, but that's really dialed. And here you can tell it's not quite as sophisticated. I mean, MCS top tier stuff. Over here, you're not spending as much money on revamping the entire suspension system. But keep in mind that when you buy a more expensive vehicle on the used market, you have less money for mods, whereas you get a cheaper vehicle, you can put more money into mods. And if it was my money, clear answer would be M2 all the way. I respect the DE5 and the FL5 for what they are, but at the end of the day, I find that based on my preferences, based on the type of excitement and pleasure I get from driving, they're a bit too compromised. I think what the owner has done here over a stock Integra Type S is a good step in the right direction, and for his intended use case, I would say it's actually great. It's very well done, but it's still leaving me wanting more in terms of the driving experience when I'm bombing the canyons. My friends, let me know what you think with a comment down below. Big thanks to the owners Alex and Alan for letting us review their cars. Big thanks to Fenton's son from the Zygreen channel for making this review possible. Much love, my friends, and I'll see you all in the next one.